but as leaders, we always learn from each other. I promise you, I've been trading for about over 13 or 14 months, and I'm still learning. Even the most successful traders are always looking to really take their skills to the next level. And in order for them to do that, they have to learn from others, even from the simple things as well. So thank you for that, John. I really appreciate that. And yeah, hope you guys are doing well. It hasn't been a minute, but I'm glad to see you guys on this call. And I'm going to be sharing some of the stuff that I do sometimes on a daily basis when it comes to trading. So I just wanted to say hi to everyone. Hi, Anna, Brenda, Eva. Hope you guys have got quite a few names, but hopefully we have a lot more people jump on the call. But well done for also taking the time out to be on this call as well. All right. So how are we all doing? In fact, you guys, I like to be interactive on a chat. I just want to make sure that whatever I say, whatever I teach, you guys actually receive it. That's probably one of the most important things when it comes to delivering information. I don't just want to speak, but I want you guys to receive what it is that I'm saying. So just be interactive in the chat if you can, just making sure that you guys are receptive to what it is that I'm going to be delivering to you guys. All right. So the first question I'll probably ask is, how many of you were able to plug into Arise Academy? The specific video was, let me just double check, I'm making sure I'm saying it correctly, but it's basically, sorry, give me 1 sec. I'll just even share my screen. I'm going again. Where am I? Okay, hopefully you guys can see my screen, but really quickly, just type it in the chat if you've either managed to watch or have already watched or are about to watch this particular video. The video is basically market structure. All right, so market structure is done by Mwalimu. He's one of our Forex traders in the academy, heavily does his analysis on fundamental analysis, long-term trades. Probably place a trade, sometimes takes a couple of hours, a day, sometimes takes even a week to hit, but when it hits, it's very profitable. He's a very patient trader, knows what he's doing, but just type it in the chat. Just drop a number 1 in the chat if you've managed to watch this video on market structure, and just drop a number 2 if you're brand new and you haven't managed to watch this particular video. Okay, so we've got Faisal about to, no worries. Anybody else? We've got about 23 of us on the call, just to double check. I just want to see where we're at so that I know exactly where to progress from. So everyone on the call, we've got Steph, we've got Anna, who else do we have? Faisal, of course. Imfaz, we've got Samuel. Have I said that name correctly? Is it Nafe or Nate? Sorry, apologies, Nate. All right, Eva, hey, I'm new. Welcome to the call, Eva. I'm glad to have you here. Grateful to have you on this call. Okay, so far we've got quite a few people. Anybody else? Have you managed to watch the video from Mo to do with market structure? Okay, no problem. Haven't watched it yet. Anybody else? Okay, do me a massive favor, guys. If you do it whilst I'm going to be speaking, so that I don't obviously take too much of your time asking, but so far I can see that Jade has watched it, Jordan's watched it, quite a few of you haven't watched it. I'm just assuming that a lot of you are brand new. Okay, that's awesome. So here's the thing I'm going to say is, after this call, the task that I'm going to ask every single person to do, because I'm going to cover a lot of these basics, but when you go onto Arise Academy, regardless or irrespective of if you have the Next Elite or you've got the Turbo package, every single person has access to the Turbo webinars. All right, there's 38 videos or pre-recorded webinars from the educators. Probably one of the most important ones you should have is not just the mindset, but also watch market structure, because this is going to help you in terms of whatever everything it is that I'm going to be teaching you today. All right, so definitely do yourselves a massive favor, help yourselves. If you want to become a successful trader, a lot of it is, yes, copying and pasting is great, but the purpose of copying and pasting is so that you can make money whilst you actually learn the skill. Because I promise you, in order for you to transform your mindset in your life when it comes to this platform or trading as a whole, it really comes down to understanding the skill. John said it best. He said, the money that you're going to be making in trading and through Arise Academy is all based on the knowledge that you can obtain. And you have to be able to develop that over a period of at least 3 to 6 months, all the way up until a maximum of 18 months. Anywhere else, of course, you can have more time added in terms of your growth, but that's basically the time frame in order for you to achieve understanding the skill set, building a strategy for yourself, and really making a lot of money for yourself as well. All right, so that's just what I want us to start off with as a foundation, so that at the end of this call, you guys know exactly what you need to do. This evening, set a timetable, set a schedule, and say, hey, look, this video is 25 minutes. I'm going to be doing 25 minutes on social media anyway. I'm going to be doing 25 minutes on the way from work or to work anyway. I might be socializing with my friends for 25 minutes, but 25 minutes to understand market structure, which can potentially change your life financially by understanding some basic principles. All right, so that's just that. Now, what I'm going to do is share with you my screen, and I'm going to talk about I'm going to be talking about the technical aspect. I'm going to be talking about all the other aspects of trading, following on from our last call. But I really want to focus on the technical aspect of things, because I truly believe that when it comes to the technicals of trading, there's a lot of things that you guys can implement, very, very simple steps for you to start even developing strategies for yourself. All right, so this is TradingView. This is usually where the traders, the educators, this is basically what they see every single day before they copy, they type, and then they send out a trade idea. Well, how in fact is it that they send out a trade idea? How do they even come up with this stuff for them to say, okay, guys, this is where your stop loss should be, this is where your take profit should be, and this is the price of the entry that we should take? How do they go about doing it? Like I said, I'm going to cover just the technical aspects of things. The first thing you always want to do, and the first thing that I always do, is look at a higher time frame. What does that mean? So I'm going to take it as steady as I can, because I know there's a few new people on the call, but this is basically representing where price is. Okay, so perfect example. Let's just say, right, this is GBP versus AUD, which basically translates to the pound versus the Australian dollar. This is just a chart that represents where the exchange rate of the pound versus the Australian dollar is. All right, this is all this chart represents. All right, now the reason I say start from a high time frame is because every single one of these candles or these bars or these, whatever you want to call it, it represents whatever time frame you're on. So right now we are on 1 hour time frame. Okay, it means that every single hour there's going to be a new bar appear. Another hour, there's going to be a new bar to appear. Another hour, a new bar. So right now we are, it's 2 p.m. in the UK right now. All right, so it's 2 p.m. and this is where the candle is. So in the next hour, so when it's 3 o'clock, a new candle will appear. If you go down to another time frame, instead of every hour, it's now going to be every 4 hours. If you go to another time frame, which is the daily, instead of every 4 hours, it's going to be every day. So you're not going to see a new candle appear until midnight tonight, basically. All right, I hope this is making sense. So when I say we need to go to a higher time frame, it simply means if you're on TradingView and if you're looking at it on your phone, you can do so, although it's not very practical. But if you are going to do that on your phone, you can actually change what you're looking at. You can look at it from a daily, an hourly perspective, or a weekly perspective, or a monthly perspective. Now, I don't really know many traders that look from a monthly perspective unless they're serious long-term traders. But in other words, the higher the time frame that you go, the better it is for you to almost guarantee a steady direction of where the price is going to be. Because when it comes to trading, all we're simply doing is we're buying and we're selling. We're buying when the price is very low and we're selling when the price is very high. A good example is Black Friday was not last week. I think it was the week before, if I'm not mistaken. And what do people do on Black Friday? On Black Friday, people are queuing up at superstores just to buy the TV at a cheaper price, right? People are shopping online to buy washing machines that they don't even need. But because it's been discounted, they want to buy something of a higher value at a lower price so that they can technically make a profit. Because instead of buying it when the price is high, they want to buy it when the price is low and get a better value for something that is usually a higher price. I hope that makes sense. So in trading, it's kind of the same principle. we simply do two things in trading to make money. We buy when the price is very low and we sell when the price is very high. It's that simple. So that's basically what we do in trading. So if we're saying go to a higher time frame, because if you go to a higher time frame, we know that, for example, this is a monthly time frame. In the last, I don't know, this is month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, in the last 6 months, the price hasn't really moved from this particular area. If I go to another currency pair, for instance, it might be different. I can say in the last 6 months, the price has been dropping for Australian dollar, US dollar. I can say in the last 6 months, the price exchange rate for Australian dollar versus the CHF, which is Swiss franc, is decreased in the last 6 to 8 months. You can clearly see it here. It's decreased. All right, just drop a number 1 in the chat if what I'm saying makes sense. In particular for Eva and a few other new. Sorry for picking you out, Eva, but I know you're brand new. I just want to make sure that you get it, and especially for those who are brand new to our session, just type a number 1 in the chat if you guys understand what I'm saying to you so far. All right. So thank you, Nate. Thank you, John, Faisal. Okay, awesome. Perfect. So in other words, if you guys can understand the direction of the trend from a higher time frame, there's more likely of a chance that you can almost not just guess, but almost predict where the market should continue from. All right. So that's like the first step. If you go to TradingView, this is actually a free app, by the way. You can go online, you can get TradingView for free. You can do this on your phone for free as well. You can download it. But start from a higher time frame. I'm just using a month as an example. Okay, cool. So now what's the next step after that? The next step after that is this. Go to a lower time frame. Do we see exactly the same thing? So we clearly saw that in the last 6 months on a daily time, on a monthly time frame, the price was going downwards. This is what the price was doing from here to here, right? If I go to a weekly time frame, it will no longer be on a monthly. Obviously, between here to here, that's on the monthly because that's what we just drew out for a month. But this is now within the last couple of weeks. Can we also say the same thing? In the last couple of weeks, has the price also been going in a downwards direction? What we simply want to do is do the simple things. We want to see if the market is doing the same thing on a higher time frame, on a lower time frame. If I go to another lower time frame, which is the daily time frame, can I sincerely say that, oh, the price is actually trending downwards? From what I can see so far, yes, because from here to here, I can say that the price has still been going on the downwards direction. Now, don't worry about all of the markings I'm doing here. It's not perfect, but I just want to paint something in your mind. It's a mindset so that you understand it's as simple as that. It's as simple as predicting the direction of a market based on you looking at the higher time frames. When you can understand that, you now have something called a bias. A bias is basically understanding that I'm only looking for one thing. So if Sammy, for example, you're on the call, if Sammy decided that I can see a trade and the trade, I can see that on a higher time frame is going to be going down or is going to be going for a sell. Okay, great. I'm going to go to a lower time frame. Is it still going for a sell? Okay, great. Then Sammy has already made up in her mind that the only thing I'm looking to do is sell. When I get a right opportunity to sell, then I'll jump in for a sell trade. That's when the opportunity comes. Type of number 1 in the chat if that makes sense. All right. So you basically look at a higher time frame, predict the overall price of the market, and then you take your trade. Now, look, what do we see here? We can see here that we've been saying that the market has been going down for some time, right? But what do we now see here? We can see that the market clearly is going in the opposite direction. Okay, now you start to think, okay, what are we seeing here? Can I now go over the other lower time frames and see the same thing? All right, let me stop at the 4 hour. Because like I said, especially for everyone of us on the call, we wouldn't necessarily go to the monthly or the weekly or the daily. Probably the daily at max, probably not more than the daily. All right, so in other words, let's just say I've just looked at these 4 time frames. I now know that on the monthly, it's going down, right? On the weekly, we're looking for a downwards trend or it's going down. On a daily, we're going down as well. On a 4-hour, it's actually going up. So in other words, if I know that the first 3 time frames, it said it's going down, then what am I really looking for? Does anybody know in the chat? There's no right or wrong answer to this because I'm going to give you the answer to that anyway. So does anybody know that we've already said, okay, for the first 3 times we've looked at them, the monthly, the weekly, the daily, and we're just assuming that the market will be going down. However, on the lowest time frame, which is the 4-hour, it's actually going up. So I'll give you the answer. The answer to that is it could potentially reach this particular level and then continue downwards because the overall direction is downwards anyway. But we know that the market never moves in a straight line. It never just does that. It does something along the lines of this. It goes up, down, it zigzags, right? It goes in waves. It doesn't just go down straight away. So if I know that that's the case, then I know that, okay, maybe the market should go up a little bit. When it hits this particular area, we should expect it to continue downwards. So then my entry of price should be around that particular area. Okay, my entry should be around that particular area right there. Hopefully that makes sense. So if John now were to jump on the markets and say, hey, I'm looking for a sell because overall, I know that the direction is going to be a sell. I've done all of my analysis. I've done all of the other checks and stuff, but I know my overall is a sell. So at the moment, I'm not actually placing a trade. I'm just waiting for the market to get to a certain point. When it does, or if it does, perfect. I'm going to now jump my trade because I know that the overall direction of the market is for it to go downwards. Just type a number 1 in the chat if that makes any sense so far. I can see a question. It says, what if it breaks the line and carries on going? Good question. So if it breaks, then we could see a reversal in the trend, all right? The whole idea of why I'm showing you this is to understand how to identify trends in the market. And the reason I'm telling you to watch the video of market structure is because it goes through that in detail, price action at its finest. What price action is basically is understanding what trend is. Trend is very simple. Is it uptrend? Is it downtrend? Basically what I've been speaking about for the last 10 minutes or so, well, hopefully up to 10 minutes. On the monthly, is it an uptrend or is it a downtrend? Clearly, I can see that it is from here to here, it's a downtrend. The market's been moving downwards. On the weekly time frame, what are we in? Is it an uptrend? Is it a downtrend? I basically showed you that it's a downtrend. Okay, on the daily, is it an uptrend or is it a downtrend? I just showed you that we can look at it as a downtrend. So if, for instance, it reaches here, instead of using that as like a resistance or like for it to go back down, and if it breaks and continues, then hey, then it continues. That's just how trading goes. We're not going to get all of them correct. All right. So in other words, you want to see what will happen whenever it gets to that line, and then you continue your trade. Just drop a number 1 in the chat if that makes sense. For I think it was for Imtiaz. Sorry if I've mispronounced your name, but that question was for you. The answer was for you. Okay. So if you are going to be writing down some notes, which you should be, the first thing in trading when you're doing any type of analysis is identify the trend. All right. Identifying the trend is the most important thing. Once you can identify the trend, if Steph was taking a trade, she knows, okay, I can see, for instance, overall, the trend is downwards. So I know that I'm only going to be looking for sells. I'm only looking for opportunities when the market gets a little bit higher, then I sell. It gets higher, then I sell. Okay. Identify the trend. Once you've identified the trend, then you know, hey, okay, I'm only going to be looking for buyers or only going to be looking for sells. Here's one way of doing it as well. Because I believe you guys, if you begin to use this, is very powerful. But You know, TradingView is a very powerful tool if you know how to use it. Okay, it's just like if you get into a car. If you try to get into a car and you've never driven before, everything just seems very confusing. You don't even know what a gear stick does. You don't even know, you know, what how to really ride the steering wheel and stuff like that. So in other words, there are indicators here that you can use in order to help you to do this. So I'll give you one. There's something called a moving average. All right, so a moving average. Hopefully I can change it. Okay, don't worry about what I'm doing right now in terms of exactly what I'm doing, but I just want to show you why I'm doing it. So can you see this line? This line is called a moving average. And this moving average, what it basically does, it gives you the overall direction of the market. Okay, a very simple way to understand it is this. If the market is below the line, we shouldn't be looking to do any buys. We should only be looking to do what? Sells. But if the market is above that line, we should only be looking to do what? To buy. That's all it basically means. And what this moving average is, it's the average of the last or the previous 200 candles. That's why it gives you the overall direction of where the market should go. All right. So those are the two ways of identifying the trend. You can do this on any time frame. You can do this on a day, on a monthly. You can say, hey, every candle represents a monthly. Right. Obviously, if it represents a monthly, I can obviously already tell that, you know, this can go as far back as you can see here, 2018. So overall, we're only looking to sell because since 2018, we've been on a downtrend for this pair. I can say, hey, okay, this is a weekly time frame. I can say for the last couple of weeks since 2017, we've been on a downtrend. It depends on how long you want to trade for. Okay, you can do this on a 4-hour. Okay, now I want to be a bit more specific because I know a lot of us, if we're starting to trade, we want to understand some of the basics and we want to get into the flow of taking action and seeing things happen pretty much as soon as possible. We're not looking to trade for 1 month or 2 months necessarily. But the reason I'm saying that is because we're looking to maybe trade in hours, make profit in hours, maybe make profit in minutes, maybe make profit in 15 minutes, in a minute, right? So everything that I basically showed you, you can now apply the same thing, exactly the same thing, just not on these time frames. You can do it, for example, say 1 hour, then 30 minutes, then you can do 15 minutes, then you can do 5 minutes. You might decide, okay, 30 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 3 minutes. You might say 15 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 3 minutes, then 1 minute. It really is entirely up to you and how you decide you want to learn how to trade. Everything that we show you can be applied to any time frame. But what I want you guys to take away from this particular segment of what I'm saying is the first and the most important thing when it comes to trading, identify the trend, identify overall, where is the market heading? Should I be buying or should I be selling? I want you guys to answer this question. So this is the Euro USD. Should I be buying based on what you see? Don't worry about if it's 15 minutes or 1 hour, but based on what you can see, should I be buying this currency pair or should I be selling this currency pair? Type it in the chat. Does anybody know? Just based on what you can see on the screen, should I be buying the currency pair or should I be selling this currency pair? Okay, so far we've got one answer. Anybody else? Okay, Samuel said buy, Faisal said buy. Has anybody got any other responses? So should I sell this currency pair or should I buy this currency pair? Okay, so, okay. Okay, cool. So Jade said sell, the only person that was brave enough to say sell. Well done to you. Okay, no problem. So Brenda said sell. Okay, cool, no problem. So we've got quite a few buys and a few sells. The question I have for you is, why should we buy it and why should we sell? Now, I'm not going to obviously give you all the time for you guys to answer that, because I know typing can be quite long, but I'm going to give you the answer to that. The reason I want to buy is because the market is above the 200 moving average. Very simple. The reason I don't want to sell is this. It's simply because the market is not below the line. All right. In other words, we are in an uptrend. So this is why the moving average is really handy and it's quite practical. If you know, I don't want to say if you're lazy, because I'm sure none of you are lazy, but if you haven't got to the place where you can literally have nothing, like you can have this blank graph and you can't identify the trend, then use the moving average. It will do it for you. You can see here, the market is below. Okay, I'm only looking for sales. Okay, great. Now it's crossed and the market is above. Now I'm only looking for buys. Very, very simple. Okay. So for all you, for everyone that has said sell, great answer. Maybe because of this trend, but you can clearly see that the market is above the moving average. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, here's the second thing I'm going to cover. The second thing I'm going to cover is very similar to what I covered before, which is support and resistance. The reason why this is very important is because you want to identify something called key levels. Now, what is a key level? A key level is where the market used to previously be, whether that be in the past, whether it be in the last couple of minutes, last couple of hours, last couple of days, you name it, whatever it is. All right. So how do you get key levels? How do you identify support and resistance? Can anybody type in the chat if you are on my last call and our last call, another way to describe support and resistance? In fact, Jade, I'm going to ask you, do you know another method or another term for support and resistance? Let me know in the chat. If you don't know, then that's okay. Feel free to just type in the chat. And by the way, Brenda, thank you. That's a good response because it may have been a downtrend. Thank you for that response. So a few people have said roof and ground floor. I love that. I never heard that one before. Previous highs and previous lows. Great. It's even simpler than that. Ceiling and floor. So roof and ground floor, that's basically what it is. So the floor and the ceiling. So I love to use the analogy. Whenever you have a house, right, you have a set of flats. When you have a set of flats, you have a 3-story set of flats. You have a floor and a ceiling. If I live on a ground floor, I have a floor and I have a ceiling. But now if I go upstairs to the first floor, what happens? If I go upstairs to the first floor, what used to be my ceiling becomes that person's floor or becomes a new floor. Does that make sense? So ceilings and floors. You have a floor, you have a ceiling. So this is a floor, this is a ceiling. But then if you go to this level, this is now a floor and this is a ceiling. But what happens if you go below all of that, right? Remember when this was a floor, it's now no longer a floor. If you go here, this becomes a ceiling. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is so that you guys are reminded that, hey, look, in price action, this always happens all of the time, every single time. I'll give you a really rough example right now. So look, I can literally place this line right here and I can say, this is very likely to happen. Here's why, because the price in the market right now is here. When it reaches here, what do you think will happen? Type it in the chat, anybody. I'm not gonna move my mouse. Or type it in the chat, anybody. What do you think, if the market goes to where my arrow is right now, what do you think could happen? Okay, pull back. Exactly. It could continue as an uptrend or go back up. Exactly. That's exactly right. And why is that? Because this is, remember how the price was here? In fact, let me just do a rewind for you so you guys can get it. So you can see that this is where the market previously used to be. And over time, what happened? Remember how this was a ceiling? This is a ceiling right now because the market came from here. Let me rewind a little bit more. You can see that the market was here. It's now going up. As soon as it reached that area, what happened? It reached that area and it dropped. That's a ceiling because when it hit the ceiling, it dropped. But now over time, what ended up happening? It hit the ceiling again. It came here, it dropped. And boom, there you go. And then it broke the ceiling. And now this is no longer a ceiling. This is now a floor. So what could happen is that the market could go here, bounce off, and then continue all the way up here. So how do the traders send their trade ideas? These are the type of things that they do, but just on a higher level. They identify where the ceiling was, where the floor was, and where the market used to be. When you can understand those two basic things and really get good at it, you can then begin to develop your own strategy. So number one, identify the trend. Number two, get good at spotting support and resistance. I said this on the last call. On the last call, I said, if you go to TradingView on the app, it's very simple. Go to a random chart and start drawing out lines, random lines, but just lines such as this. You can just put a line here and say, this is a floor. Why is it a floor? Justify why it's a floor. Write a note, start journaling. Why should I justify this being a floor? Because whenever the market gets here, it bounces. Whenever it gets here, it bounces. So I can say that this is a floor. They usually say if it touches a line twice, it's usually twice or three times. You can count it as a very strong line or a very strong floor, or vice versa if it's a strong ceiling. Excuse me. So you guys get good at doing that. Why can I justify? In fact, let me go to a better example. Why can I justify this being a ceiling? Because look, whenever the market got here, so the market went here, it dropped. The market got here again, it dropped. The market got here, it didn't really drop, but it kept on dancing around this line until it dropped again, and eventually it broke. And now this is no longer a ceiling, it's a floor. But in other words, to become more practical with doing this, you have to get to the point where you understand what support and what resistance is. Okay, so just type it in the chat, number one, if you guys are getting that. Just type on number one in the chat if you guys are following. I want to make sure that you guys are receiving this, because the whole idea of this is this. I want you guys to really understand the mindset behind trading. Trading is great when it comes to copying and pasting and making money, but ask yourself this question, and I really mean it. 6 to 12 months from now, do you really still want to be copying and pasting? Do you really still want to be copying and pasting? Ask yourself that question. And it's a serious question, because we've already told you, like myself and John, whoever introduced you to the platform, we've already shared the vision when it comes to trading in itself. The opportunity is huge and it's endless. But in order for you to get to that point where, Joe said, I want to learn more. Exactly my point. In order for you to get to that point where you're making a multiple four-figure a month, you can confidently say, hey, I'm making £2,500 a month in trading. Hey, I'm making 10 grand a month in trading. In order to get to that point, you have to realize that it's the skill set. For those of you that work in full-time, I work full-time, but for those of you that work a 9 to 5, just imagine if you've been working at that company for the last 5 years and you hadn't really trained to do anything, but you show up, you get told what to do. At some point, you're going to feel like, yo, like I'm not really feeling fulfilled at this role. You have some level of ownership, right? You have some level of ownership towards what it is that you're doing. Although, yes, you have a boss. Although, yes, you have a supervisor, or you have a team leader. Some of you might even be team leaders, but you report to the boss. Does that make sense? Some of you might even be CEOs. I don't know everyone on this call. But at some point, you had to submit to somebody. But imagine if that person you submitted to told you what to do every single second of the day. They dictated how much money you're supposed to be making. They dictated, you know, that you should sit in a certain place for the whole 8 hours before you leave. They dictated, they told you that, hey, look, you're meant to do all of these projects. You can't eat, you can't drink. Imagine how you would feel. Just think about that for a second. So why is it that when you come into trading, it happens all the time? I was even once there when I first started. I had this certain expectation that, hey, look, I'm going to make this, take these signals. I'm going to make some money. I can't wait to make my 50 or 100 pounds a day just from the signals. But what happens if the signals go in the opposite direction? No, believe it or not, in November, there was 1 week where, believe it or not, our trades, the amount of pips that we gained in a week was incredible. A lot of people could have made money, but at the same time, we did have a margin where people could also lose money. That's just to show the quality of the product, even though we had some losses. But the reason I'm sharing that with you is you want to get to the point where there's some level of ownership towards what it is that you're doing. And the ownership comes from the basics, such as this, such as the very things that I'm showing you. These things seem very simple, but the reason why people aren't doing it and they're not really making money, and sometimes even if you lose money, you might feel just the urge to complain a little bit, is because you don't know anything to do with the skill. I hope that makes sense, and I really want that to sink in, because until I understood this, I was always going to be bound by what I don't know. That's very key. You're always going to be bound by what you don't know if you don't take the time to learn the skill for yourself. All the successful traders, and that's not to say that every single person on this call wants to become a successful trader. No, because I know some people love their lifestyles, love their life. They have visions and goals for themselves. But trading is just an element that they can use to make more money, to have a better quality life so that they can go ahead and do the things that they love. But then there has to come to a point of ownership. Now that ownership might mean that, hey, I don't fully know how to trade. However, I know how to manage my account. I know that, oh, if Arise Academy sends a trade idea where it looks like it's a sell, but it clearly says it looks like a buy, then hey, I don't have to take the trade. Or maybe if it's not a key level, let's just say, let me give you a perfect example. Let's just say here, I'm going to use this as a ceiling. This is a very, very long-term ceiling. Very long-term ceiling. The reason I say very long-term, well, it's not a very long-term ceiling. This is only 15-minute, but this is a long-term ceiling, because the reason I put the line there is because this was, okay, from here to here, how many hours is that? That's 7 days. So 7 days ago, the market was here. 7 days ago, the market is where the circle is. So 7 days later, we can see the market has gone down. So if I decided, hey, Samuel decides, okay, when the market gets back to this particular line where it was 7 days ago, I'm going to sell. When it gets to here or around this area, I'm going to sell. And my reason for it selling is because 7 days ago, the market was here. So when it gets back here, I know that the market will do something like this. It will go all the way here. It will go here. It might go up, but I know that it should continue back down because it's a very strong line. You might say that. So if you can see based on your analysis and based on how confident you are in the market that, hey, the Academy has sent out a trade, but I also see another trade for myself, then hey, you can do that. So my point is, you get to the point now where you dictate how much money you're making based on the knowledge that you have. I hope that makes sense. If I have to cut off the score right now, I think that's enough for you guys to go away with, because these are some of the basics that I started to teach myself and master time and time again. I remember this was in February. I think February, between the 31st of January to February, the first couple of days this year. I was on Arise Academy, I was learning, and then I just sat down and I thought, you know what? Why is it that people are making 10, 20, 30,000 pounds a month, 30,000 pounds in a day, 30,000 pounds in one trade? There must be a reason why they're doing it. It's because they understand what they're doing. In order for me to understand what I'm doing with trading, I need to master the skill over time. And like I said, not every single person on this call desires to be a Forex trader or desires to be a Forex educator. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I've got to a position where I know now to an extent what it is that I'm seeing when I see the chart. If I see a trade idea, maybe I might not like the idea of it. The reason they send it, it's not because it's wrong. Nobody's right in the market, but the reason they send it is because they've done their analysis. They've identified what they see in the market. So they send it so that you can copy it. They have some incredible results. In the month of November, we had a 90, I'll probably say overall a 90% win rate throughout all of the educators. Clifford had, I think, over 70, nearly 80%. Bernard had about 93%. Gerald had 97%. The academy itself has over 80%. My point is, if you take a lot of the trades that we provide, you're almost guaranteed to make money consistently, but also get to the point where you can dictate how much money you can make based on the knowledge that you have. So just drop a number 1 in the chat if you guys are with me on that and you guys understand what it is that I am saying. I just want to make sure that every single person gets exactly what it is that I'm talking about. As I said to you guys, in order for you guys to set yourselves free, you have to get to the point where you start to understand the skill set for yourself. Now, does it happen overnight? No, but I promise you, if you can't do some of the basics, which is watch this particular video, then we're probably going to come back and have this conversation again 6 months from now. And I promise you, you might be saddened about, you might be sad to yourself and think, what have I really actually done in the last couple of months, in the last 3 to 6 months? You know? So do yourself a massive favor. I'll share this only because my wife shared this with me, I think yesterday or the day before. But when we go to work, if somebody tells us to do something, we do it. If somebody tells us, hey, please respond to this client immediately, or they're unhappy, please could you do this? You do it. If your boss tells you to, if you're working in a kitchen, oh, please can you take out the trash? You'll go and do it. But why is it that when we tell ourselves to do things, we don't do it? So we have a respect for others, but we don't really respect ourselves. That's just a thought for you guys to take home. So do yourselves a favor and say, do you know what? I know the reason I joined Next Arise and the reason that I joined Arise Academy is because, number 1, I want to make money. I want to become a better version of myself. Number 2, and number 3, I really want to change my life financially. I didn't just join this to just make quick cash. You can make quick cash. I know a lot of you have made quick cash, which I'm super grateful for you guys, but also get to the point where you're doing yourselves a favor. Respect yourselves. Don't respect other people and not even respect yourself. Respect yourself in a sense where you're saying, the reason I've joined this is not so that I can have something necessarily on autopilot. In order to get to the point of autopilot, you have to get to the point where you have certain ownership. John talks about this all the time in his trainings. If you're in a Rise Academy alone, or you're part of Next Rise as a whole, John talks about it in his training. When he shares his story, he said the key thing, or the key element when it comes to everything, the most successful people, is ownership. I own this, I own that, or I do this, I own a business. He said, oh wow, okay, the reason why they're successful is not because I'm not working hard on my job, but it's because they own something. So you don't own a Rise Academy. However, you can own the skill set that you can obtain. So do yourselves a favor and say, do you know what? This isn't long. If I dedicated now for the next 25 minutes, this is a 25-minute video. If I say every single day, I'm going to spend 25 minutes, I guarantee you at the end of the month, you're going to be like, I need to now spend 2 hours a day doing it. Not because you have to, but because you now have a passion, you now have a desire to learn and master the skill. I say this to a lot of people every now and then. I say, look, if you really want it, you'll do it. If you really want it, the desire will come by itself. If you really say, do you know what, this has the power to change my family's life and to change me financially through the skill set I can learn, you'll find ways. You'll be so busy. You might have the kids, you might have a very busy marriage, a very busy lifestyle. But then you'll get to the point where, do you know what, my sleep, my 8-hour sleep, it's just not worth me sleeping 8 hours. Let me sleep for 6 hours and spend the extra 2 hours mastering something that I know will change my life financially. All right, so I hope that makes sense. The reason I'm sharing this side of things and this mindset is that this is simply because of this, that I made a decision at the start, this time last year, to take this skill set seriously because it has the power to transform my life financially. But most importantly, the mindset that comes with it is second to none, and it's incredible. And we have some out of this world educators, and they've impacted me, they've impacted John and many people who plug into the session. So like I said, do yourselves a massive, massive favor, because remember, the time that you put your credit card on the system of Arise Academy, you've made a decision to follow the educators for their success. The reason why we scream and we shout, they've made 6 figures, they made 7 figures, because we want to get loads of customers. But also do yourselves a favor and let it help you so that you can even more impact other people through the platform. All right. So how does this even relate to TradingView? Well, it's very simple. I basically showed you some of the basics. The basics is this: go ahead now and understand the trend. The trend is what? The trend is understanding the overall trend of the market. Once you can understand the overall trend of the market, number one. Number two, identify key levels. Key levels is what? Support and resistance. All right. And then now begin to get good at, when you see support and resistance, now when is the perfect time for me to jump into a trade? Is it going to be when I'll give you an example right now. This is how simple it gets. If I decided, hey, okay, these are just going to be the lines I'm going to draw based on what I can see. Okay, this is another line over here. This is another line over here. Whenever you put lines anywhere, just justify why you're putting the lines. There's no right and there's no wrong answer, but as long as you have an answer, right? I can easily say that, hey, the reason I'm putting this line here is because there are 2 touches. So this is a resistance. The reason why I put a line here is because the market, whenever it reached here again, this is a resistance, right? The reason why I put a line here is because there was a line that whenever the market got here, it rejected before it continued. So put lines where you believe a line should be, but then justify why you're putting it there. And then over time, you'll begin to understand why we talk about support, resistance, trends, overall trends, that kind of thing. So those are the 2 fundamentals I want to leave you with. When it comes to analysis, there are other forms of analysis. There's fundamental analysis, such as understanding the overall economics of things. So now we have the Omarian variant, not the Omarian, just kidding, but the Omicron variant, right? That's the new COVID variant. So straight away you think, okay, lockdown. So when you think of lockdown, what do you think? You think the markets might crash again like they did 18 months ago. That's news that can affect the market. That's fundamental analysis. Tomorrow, if Boris Johnson decides to step down as Prime Minister, that's going to affect the pound. So you might think that the pound's going to get weaker. So for instance, if I go to the GBP versus AUD, I might expect the pound to get weaker and the markets to go down south like that. So these are all fundamental analysis. And then you've got sentiment. If there's 16 people on the call right now, right, and out of the 16 people, let's just say Nate, Samuel, Natalie, yourself, Najma, Jordan, let's just say 5 or 6 of you decided that, hey, I'm going to be selling this market. Imagine how many other millions of people around the world think they should sell it because of a particular reason. And the more people that sell it, the more it drives the market down. And of course, you have other people such as the banks and stuff. So these are all other forms of analysis. But the reason I share the mindset with you is this, because when the desire comes, you begin to learn the basics, understand the basics, start to master the basics. And then you go from place to place. You go from understanding some of the basics of technical analysis, and then you move on to the next step, which is understanding, other things. There's so many other things I can even teach you right now. I can teach you about price action, as in price action at a higher level. I can teach you about some of the indicators that I use. I can teach you about different moving averages. I can teach you about Fibonacci. To be fair, I don't really know much about Fibonacci. Fibonacci retracement, that's even such a good way to trade. A lot of top traders use Fibonacci, right? But until you understand the very, very basics, it's going to be a real struggle for you. And you'll probably get very frustrated. And I don't want that for anybody. So I hope that really makes sense. Like I said, the 2 things I want you guys to come away with on this call. Number 1, the mindset is very, very key. Remember why you're doing this. You're not just doing this to receive signals. Remember the value that comes with a Rise Academy. It's more than just receiving signals. It's about understanding what your target is, what your goal is, and also the direction that you're headed. You might be headed for a 10 grand a month. Okay, prepare. What does 10 grand a month look like? Does it look like 500 pounds a day? How are you going to get to 500 pounds a day? Does it mean you might need to invest 1 grand to 2 grand into your trading account as an investment, because you know that that's a long-term investment, that once I practice the skill, that's the type of money I want to be making? You might say, okay, I'm going to be 2 grand as a demo account. So start to practice and put things in place that will prepare you. Without that preparation, nothing's going to happen. All right. So the mindset, number one. Number two, understand how to identify the overall trend of the market. Okay. Is it an uptrend? Is it a downtrend? I already showed you. Go to TradingView. Use the moving average. When you use the moving average, if you want to change the setting, because sometimes it might come something like this. Right? It might come like this, right? You don't want that. You want to change it to 200, because when you change it to 200, it gives you a proper overall direction. You can say, hey, based on what I can see, it's either, if it's above here, I know that as soon as it passes above, I don't want to look for sells. I'm only going to be looking for buys. All right. And number three, start to get good at support and resistance on the chart. All right. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Do you guys have any questions? I know there were some questions on the chat. Let me see. Cool. Is there a way to connect MT4 and 5 on TradingView? I think John already answered that. Yeah. I think from my understanding, yeah, you can't really connect MT4 to TradingView, but you can connect other brokers. Am I wrong? No. You can connect. Okay, so hold on, let me show you something. No worries, man. But yeah, so TradingView and MT4 are, they're just, although they kind of mirror the same things, they're very separate as well. So TradingView is for the analysis, and MT4 is for you to execute your trades, as in place the trades. Okay. So they're very different. You can't really connect it. The one thing you can connect is your broker and TradingView, depending on what broker it is that you have. And it's not every broker. I know that there's a, let me see if, where is it? Yeah, so hopefully you guys can see my screen, but you can see that there are some brokers here. I've never heard of 80% of these brokers before. I know about Owanda. I know about FXCM. I know about Sacco. I don't know. Oh, Forex.com, I've heard of them as well, but I don't know about any of the other brokers. And this one here, Paper Trader, paper trading is basically like a demo version of an account. You can connect it. You can, once you connect it, it's almost like you're having the analysis and you're also executing the trades as if you have the broker on here. So it's like a practice account kind of thing. All right, so hopefully that answers your question. But do we have any other questions? Okay, awesome. Just drop a number one in the chat if that was any form of value whatsoever. Let me know if you guys caught anything from that call or got any value from that call. Just drop a number one in the chat. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Ven. Hin, thank you. Thank you, Steph. Nate, Tanya, thank you. Samuel, is it Samuel Jr.? Or Samuel Senior? Okay. Thank you so much for jumping on. And yeah, you know, this has been a great journey. I sincerely believe that my journey has still only just begun. The reason I'm sharing this with you is all due to experience for the last 14 months, nearly 15 months in trading. Now, I've known about trading for longer than that, about nearly 6 years, in 2015. But I really decided to take action with Arise Academy, and it's actually changed my life from excuse me, from a mindset point of view, and God willing, will do also financially as well. All right. So I really want this to be a journey for all of us. The reason why all of you on the call today is because you see some value in really making a difference, not just from a trading standpoint, but also what you use and what you do through this platform and this academy is going to help you from a wider perspective and really impact other people in terms of, if you're somebody a part of the business, you want to communicate this to your friends, your family, and tell them what you've actually learned through the platform. They want to see the change in you, right? They want to see your bank account as well, but they also want to see the change in you. They want to see your trading account, but most importantly, they want to see the change in you. And it really just comes down to how you begin to, what you do with your time. All right. You don't necessarily have to spend 24 hours a day watching this, because you'll probably be exhausted. However, if you take the practical steps and say, until I understand word for word what this guy has just said on Arise Academy, then I'm not going to watch any other video. Until I've drawn out exactly what he said, then there's no point of me doing anything. It's some basic stuff. And I'm so glad that it's not a classroom, because if it was a classroom, I guess a lot of us probably wouldn't still remain in the classroom. All right. But what I would like to do now, unless John has anything to say, I would like to round off the call. If John has like any remarks or anything like that.